Good morning, and thanks for joining us here on Condo Solutions. Monday mornings from 9 to 10 o'clock, we talk about everything condo or HOA or timeshares or co-ops or maybe just land sales. No, any of those things that you might be interested in, we are prepared to talk about it. Peter has all of the answers about everything that could possibly come up ever in a condo or homeowners association. Right, Peter?
Yeah, right. The witch hunt and the hoax. Anyway,
That's what it would be. But anyway, no, seriously, we are here to help you. So all you have to do is dial 220-9788, 220-WSTU, and we'll be happy to get you on the air and so you can ask your question. A couple ground rules, or not ground rules, but just caveats. One is that we're going to give you the best answer we can. But, we don't always know, we don't have your documents. So we're going to give you what we call a radio answer, which means that we're going to base that on your interpretation of your documents, common practices, laws, rules, regulations, court cases, and all those kind of things. So, from a practical standpoint, what we're going to be doing, that's how we're going to be doing it. Second thing we say is we have to have a name to call you. It doesn't have to be your name. We don't want an association, but so we just because a lot of times if we say the association, like we always say, people then maybe tune out and think, oh, this doesn't apply to me, and many times it does apply to you. Or with a little variation applies to you. And that brings it to the third caveat, and that is that we will also vary our answer, maybe make it a little broader than your particular question. So we ask you to bear with us so that some other association that has the same problem, or maybe not the exact same problem, but pretty close, that we cover their question too, because some people are a little shy about calling in. My name is Mark Breckbill. I'm a CPA and a licensed community association manager. Been dealing in the industry for a number of years. But the star of the show is Peter Mullengarden. He's our attorney, and he's been doing this kind of work for 35 or so more years. So he has seen a lot of the things that happen in associations. So he can bring a realistic perspective to it. Not only does he know the law, but he also knows how the law is applied in many cases and what the outcomes are. So that's where we're at. So good morning, Peter. How are you doing this morning?
Morning. Good, Mark. How are you?
Good. We got our first caller this morning, so we'll go to our caller, Dave. How are you? Good morning.
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Good
Welcome.
morning, Dave.
I'm a regular listener, and I always get something out of the show. So I have a question.
Okay.
The board at our place was debating installing some more lighting. We have a particularly dark corner where a couple of streets meet. I had lots of complaints about it over the years, but finally decided we should install some light poles and some additional light there. We got sort of a preliminary bid from one outfit. We're getting a couple of others. But then several board members were very hesitant, saying that, we would need a specialized engineering and light study because some shopping center in Boca was sued for having put in lights, and then they weren't bright enough to prevent some crime occurring. So half the board felt like some light is better than no light, and the other half are now sort of gun shy, figuring the engineering study is going to cost more than the lights themselves. Can you shed any light on this?
Can you shed it? Yeah, 144.
Well, you're talking to Mark too much.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. Have you ever at that location? Have you had any issues? Have you had any security issues? Any kind of? I'm not saying severe. That doesn't have to be. But I mean, have you had any kind of burglary issues or maybe drug trafficking issues or whatever there might be that you know of?
There are a couple of minor incidents of trespassers who got a little annoyed when they were asked to leave. And it was sort of difficult to deal with them because of the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is this a homeowner association or a condominium?
Yes,
homeowner.
it's an HOA.
It's an HOA. Okay, that's what I thought. Because with the homeowner association, one issue we were thinking about, I think that's why maybe Mark was going down this road for a second. There's always the material alteration issue with common elements. Now, this is a homeowner association, doesn't have a material alteration provision in the statute, Chapter 720. So for making improvements or capital improvements or alterations to common area, you look to your documents because the statute doesn't address it. So I'll make an assumption, as we do sometimes on this show, that the board, has authority under the documents to make, improvements to the common area, let's say. But you have to look at the documents kind of carefully, and even there, we can sometimes fall back on the cases which say that even if alterations need owner approval, if the board believes that they're reasonably necessary for the health, safety, welfare of the community, then they can be done by the board. And that's why I think Mark was asking, was there a history of crime or trespassing or things like that? Because when there is, when you have an area that's dark and you have a history of assaults or batteries or whatever, the board can take reasonable measures such as lighting to make the area safer or attempt to make the area safer. On the issue of, to be honest, I don't know that case that you were referring to where the lights were deemed to be, I guess, inadequate or something. One thing you always have to be concerned about is, with lights and things like that, are there any regulations? Is there anything in, whether it's site plan or zoning or things like that may affect what kind of lights you can put in for the impact it has on neighboring communities or lots or things like that? Assuming that's not an issue here, I would think just offhand that if an area is dark and perhaps whether there's not a history of criminal activity or trespassing or things like that, but if in their business judgment, the board believes that the area should have lighting, better lighting, unless somehow the lighting that goes in makes the situation worse, which is kind of hard to imagine, or gives people like a false sense of, I guess, security. Couldn't really imagine that that some lighting would be deemed to be worse than no lighting. That's but I haven't read that case that you mentioned. So
but that case wasn't a condo or HOA case, was it? It was wasn't it
an apartment complex?
I think it was like a shopping center type thing or something, wasn't it?
A shopping center.
Yeah, and and I think I heard about that. I don't remember what it was, but it was an issue that they had safety concerns there. They had issues with people, grabbing people in the parking lot.
So maybe it was that the lighting that they put in wasn't good enough.
Right.
And
that's
it
what it was.
Didn't address the issue.
Right.
Because they had a lot of crime.
Yeah.
All right. So what they did wasn't good enough.
Right.
That's possible. So I can see that. So I don't know if you have to have an engineering study. I think you can,
I think Peter, it based on, and you see if you agree. I think if you would have only been able to do the lighting because it was a safety issue, in other words, you were a condo and maybe it's going to be considered a material alteration and all that kind of stuff, and so you were only going to be able to do it because there had been safety concerns. There'd been some problems. Then, I think in that case, you probably have some responsibility to make sure that the lighting is adequate to address those safety concerns. But in this situation, as an HOA, you're not bound by that. You don't have to worry about it being a material alteration or anything else. You can still be concerned about safety or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you're you're putting this stuff in because of safety per se. You're putting it in because it makes your community better. It makes it more accessible for your residents, safer, overall for your residents. It's not designed to specifically address a safety concern because somebody's been, attacked 3 times in that area. So, I kind of agree with Peter. Unless it somehow makes it worse, I don't see how, and creates a safety concern. I don't see how. I personally don't see how the putting the lighting in and not having a study to determine whether or not it's enough light to make it safe. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to put in enough light to make it look pleasant and not have people be in a situation where they can't go out because it's too dark to see and things like that.
Sure.
So if it was me, I'll let Peter give his answer. My answer is that you go ahead and put the lighting in. The money you save on the study for the safety, you buy handguns and give everybody in that area a gun, and then you're just pretty good. You stand your ground and you're good to go. I think everything's safe then. Peter, you agree with that? Maybe
yeah,
not,
sure.
huh? Maybe not.
Water pistols. But seriously, I think that, unless the lighting somehow again is, you're putting up candles, and again it's creates some, just unreasonable or something. To me, if the area is just improved, and as Mark said, you're not addressing a specific, crime-ridden area inadequately. To me, I think most likely you'd be okay. But
sounds good. Okay, I think that's about as good as I'm going to get.
Yeah,
we'll take a look at the document just to see if we can see anything that might restrict us from doing it without a vote. But other than that, sounds good. Thank you.
And I think Dave, all kidding aside, it is hard. The courts are usually, you're not addressing a specific safety issue. The courts usually are have some sympathy for an association using just general business judgment or just general judgment. And as a volunteer organization, your requirements there are not really even as high as they would be in a business like a shopping center, for example, or something.
Obviously you should put up lighting. Okay, I guess I'll just say this. I don't think it's, that is designed and intended for this type of use. Mm-hmm. Okay. So generally speaking, you wouldn't, put up some kind of lighting system that isn't designed and intended for, an outdoor intersection, street, whatever, So, I think as long as you're in that criteria, I would think you'd be all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Well, thanks for calling, Dave. Appreciate it. And thanks for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know, associations have to deal with some of this stuff all the time. What can you do, can't you do? And, it's kind of interesting because, you do have, and you've got more people at home day and night now, and people working out of their houses and things like that. So, yeah, I think I remember that case or some discussion of it at something I was at.
And also, generally speaking, I didn't get into this with Dave, but he's probably still listening, I hope. Generally speaking, typically associations are not liable for the criminal acts of third parties, unless the acts were foreseeable or reasonably foreseeable, and the association failed to take reasonable action to try to prevent it. And one situation is just as he was talking about, but in terms of lighting, where if you have an area, parking area, entry area, something, it is, let's say, very dark, and there's a history of assaults or batteries, or whatever, muggings,
right?
And it could have been relatively easily addressed with better lighting, and the association didn't do anything. then in that case, the association may be held liable because they knew about the situation, they knew the history, they knew that there was a potential remedy, and they didn't do it, or they didn't try to do anything.
Yeah.
So in that situation, where something is reasonably foreseeable, and the association could have taken some. Again, I don't mean they have to go out, get armed guards or something, but lighting is a relatively inexpensive fix, and they didn't do it. There could be liability there.
Right.
There may be liability.
Yeah, I think those guys are on solid ground. So I like my answer, though, Peter. You didn't like my answer. I thought no. If I'd added a spotlight to it, if I'd added a spotlight to it,
Brechbill, Brecbill, and all of you people who want to, when you're out there buying your guns for your residents, and you say, "Well, Brechbill told me to do it."
That's right. That's right. Along with the C4 to get rid of those trucks in the parking lot.
That's right.
I got you covered.
Right.
We'll get you covered here. It's
you got trappers for the bad dog.
Yeah, that's right. They can do that too. Yeah. So I'll stand out there with Dobermans. That's a safety factor. Then they're my emotional support animals. But
you'll bring alligators in.
Yeah, that's true. So I think that was a good question, Dave. Appreciate the question. When we're looking at some of this stuff, and not just that, but it does bring up kind of an interesting thing and a question, and I pose it to you, Peter, is as we're sitting here with we've talked about some of the issues relative to people being home with the coronavirus in terms of access to amenities, not just being home, but access to amenities, and the restriction of the access to amenities. I wonder on the flip side of that, if it's creating a situation where there may be a need for additional amenities. And what I'm getting at is that if more people are working out of their home, which it seems like there are more people working out of their home, you think, well, okay, it's their house. What's the big deal? But we know that there's probably a little bit more traffic coming in and out of the house. Of the communities now. Not only traffic for repairing items. When something goes bad, you're at home. You can't sit there with no AC so you've got people coming in, or, maybe more repair people coming in. I know people are having things done because they're home and they want to get them done, so they're ordering more things. Or some of my clients that are in the construction industry, in the ancillary construction industry, like one of my clients is a screen company, Pioneer Screen, very, very, very good screen company. And they, their business has been pretty strong because people are working at home and they want to cover their patio, so people can sit outside and, things like that. And so I would ask what your thoughts are, Peter, in terms of, first of all, some of whether associations need to be a little bit more cognizant, aware, and implement procedures because of the amount of increased commercial traffic that may be coming in and out of their neighborhood just to take care of people. But at the same time, whether certain restrictions you have are need to be adjusted or could be adjusted. Say, for example, you've got a prohibition against certain types of screen rooms, and one of your residents decide, well, look, I want to be outside. If I have people coming in, if I want to try to be outside as much as possible and socially distance. If I've got people coming in, I don't want to be inside. So therefore, I need to screen my patio and put up a roof on it so that I, have some blocking out some of the sun. What do you think the situation would be there in this environment? I mean, do you think that that's going to be like the clothesline situation that, I can put clothesline out because it's and hang my clothes out on a clothesline because it's environmentally, allowed or whatever?
Well, it's a device based on renewable energy.
Yeah,
right?
That's it.
So you can't prohibit that, like solar panels, clotheslines, those kind of things. That's an interesting thought, and thought along those lines, actually. Any kind of architectural decision must be reasonable. Always better if it's based upon criteria or standards or guidelines that you have written down. Otherwise, basically they have to. Then the board can't be unreasonable or arbitrary. If they don't have guidelines, then usually what they look to, does it fit within the de facto style, design, harmony of the community? Here, I guess what you're saying is, is it possible that courts could say that in light of the pandemic, that boards must take that into account, I guess, when
they're allowing alteration,
or either boards or the architectural review boards, ACC. They have different names. Architectural Control Committee. They all serve the same kind of purpose under different names. Is there a COVID aspect to architectural review? I guess on a case by case basis, possible. Not sure. I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be a factor. I'm not saying that. I think that you're going to see that be a determining factor now, in whether you can screen on your porch or things like that. I guess I'll say maybe. Not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I think that's it's probably going to be a facts and circumstances type of thing. But but yeah, I can see some things like that coming up in the future because people are, and it's interesting because you're looking at more and more, more and more of these people that are faced with a changing situation, whether it's working at home. Whether it's, I'm sure that some of these places, the businesses, they've got, people that need to take vehicles home, that kind of thing. You wonder what all of those kind of restrictions are gonna, come to bear because it is tough. It's a tough thing. That's why my personal feeling is that these associations should, in effect, as much as possible, stay out of using the coronavirus as a reason for anything, because it may slap you back in the face with something that you didn't anticipate. If I think most of the time, I think the associations are taking actions based on public health, but and I think they're pretty good doing that. But I think you got to, I think they're better off being careful because if you start using,
in terms of keeping clubhouses closed and things
pools,
like that.
clubhouses, and all those kind of things. I think it's, that's why I kind of am in favor of guidelines versus rules. As soon as they start taking the position that you have to do this because of this, they may find themselves on the other side of that. Well, we had to do this because of this, and you don't like it, but too bad. The CDC says that I need a lap pool in my backyard, or whatever the deal is. So I don't know. I just, I was kind of thinking about that. It's even it's interesting with this question that Dave had is that we have now more and more people in, like I say, in and out of the communities, and they're wearing masks. You can't tell who they are. Security systems can't really identify them. I mean, it's I know most associations probably don't want a situation where, you got people coming in and out of your community and you can't tell who they are. But how do you do that? It's getting very tough. I mean, I worry a little bit about security in this environment because of that. You've got a lot of people running around your community that have masks on. And the fact that they've got a dog on a leash doesn't mean that it's, that it's safe, and it could be anybody. So there is a lot of that. It's funny. You used to always go to a bank, for example, and the bank says, you can't wear a mask. Well, now the bank says you have to wear a mask beyond this point. But so it's one of those.
Yeah, but look, but here we have obviously a pretty unique circumstance. Okay?
Oh, I know.
And the mask is intended to protect public health. And although, yes, I mean, does the mask, and I've thought about that too. I mean, the mask, you're right. I mean, it used to be if you wore a mask into a bank, you'd have 16 alarm bells going off.
That's
and,
right.
And you'd be surrounded or something.
Mm-hmm.
But, clearly, I still think that, this is a unique circumstance, hopefully one, that, that we won't see again, but who knows. And, like everything else in life, there are consequences. There are sometimes unintended consequences, and, you have to, weigh them. I think here, the public health benefit, to me, outweighs some of the security concerns. Now, maybe there's a way to do both? Perhaps, I don't know. With some protocols that might,
Well, what I was getting at is just it may need to be addressed because, yes, now it's obviously just because of what's going on. But I've heard people saying that, I've heard certain groups of people politically saying we're going to be wearing masks, and for another year. And I've heard some people say, well, maybe we should just make people wear masks anyway to reduce the amount of flu and things like that. You've got people requiring flu shots now. So, what I'm a little concerned about is, that this thing, that at some point, somebody's going to be able to make the case whether it's currently required that for safety, for health reasons, I've got to wear my mask. I'm wearing my mask or whatever. And I think that's going to change. I don't know how, but I think that's going to change in the future. A lot of what associations are doing, because I think it's going to change the way people are doing things. Like, for example, now, the amount of stuff that gets ordered in, like you think about the increased, Amazon traffic, UPS traffic, post office traffic, FedEx traffic that we've got right now going into communities, and how those communities are handling it. I saw one community, high-rise community on the beach. They make you put everything outside. You have to drop everything outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't go in the lobby. Nobody can sign for it, really. It's all outside. And then you wonder, well, okay, what liability does the association have if that gets stolen? So anyway, it's kind of just kind of an interesting thing. I think it's just something that we're gonna see some changes.
Look, I think you're. I mean, I think that what's happening will make some permanent changes to a degree. And, this mask wearing thing, I know at least one person I've talked to, they intend to wear masks through all of next year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think no matter what the official, mask mandate is or isn't, you see that in Asia a lot already. You saw it before the pandemic.
Right.
Masks were pretty common as a health protector, whether it's against the smog or it's against flu and other.
So you're saying going forward, masks and cameras are going to be the common denominator going forward, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean,
I want to put in a plug for Evan 9. You can call here at the studio. He has PPEs available. If you need to buy them, you can. He's got lots of that stuff available. You can give him a call, and he's got anything you need, from shields to whatever, masks to whatever. He'll take care of you. But anyway, that's just a little plug for Evan. I want to make sure everybody kind of knows where to go to get their PPEs. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
No, nothing. I mean, I'm not gonna get into a mask debate.
No.
I just think it's whether it's the way we work. Like you said, how about this? I mean, let's say, like you said, not everyone. Great percentage of people start working from home, right?
Right.
Most communities say no commercial activities.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So is that going to end up having to be loosened up? Now, usually that's about seeing customers or having deliveries or things like that. But what if that's the only way you can make a living? Okay.
Right.
I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's going to change. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it anyway. Make these provisions unenforceable in documents in terms of no commercial activity out of a residence. If that's what your documents say. But I mean, like you just said about the screens.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean you can bring in tractor trailers, and heavy equipment, because that's the kind of business no, but I don't know. I mean, as far as lesser type of commercial activity, again, I don't think it's going to have an impact, but
I know communities right now where where they deal with landscape companies. The landscape owner lives in the community. 4 trucks are parked in their in their driveway, and those kind of things.
The house next to me, again, I'm not in an HOA, okay? Right. But the house literally next to me, they have a driveway service, and their truck parks in their backyard. I can see it when I'm in my backyard, but from the front, it has a fence in front of it, so right. You can't. But the pressure washing trucks,
Yeah.
Again, do I think, again, that this pandemic means that you can't enforce your commercial stuff, your non-commercial activity? No, I don't. But if you're going to extrapolate about
right, what's changing?
Potential.
Yeah, I think it's it's going to be kind of interesting. It's I mean, I think about a lot of different things that are going on, and what are happening, and some of the changes that it could make or could speed up. And I think the associations, the reason I mention it, frankly, is that, well, first of all, there was nothing else to talk about, so I thought I'd throw this out here. But
way to go.
Way to go. But really, the reason I mention it is because we've talked before how condos and HOAs kind of are on the very edge of a lot of areas of the law, between constitutional law, real property law, the association law, just everything. I mean, it's amazing how many things that when an association does something, they have to consider. And yet you don't need to be a constitutional lawyer to be on a board. I mean, it's amazing that all of the things that come up that you think is just, well, I can do that. What the heck, no, they can't have any dogs. Well, what about support animals? It's those kind of things. I mean, it's just, constant things that you have to deal with. And I think that this is going to change. I mean, like, for example, we got 55 and over communities. What if, and I know it's happening, what if the kids can't go to school and they got to stay home? A lot of the parents are working and they can't stay home with the kid. So who takes care of the kids?
The kids are going to be with the grandparents.
Right. Mm-hmm. In a 55 and over community. So, is that going to be a problem? If they have to quarantine for 2 weeks and then, they're staying there. I mean, it's there's just a lot of things out there where it's not clear, what area of the law is going to win, and that type of thing. So I do believe the associations have the ability to do a lot of things. I think they just need to be careful about what they do, because they may have to live with the flip side of it sometimes. But I think that, going forward, I think there's going to be some changes. Like you say, the commercial business stuff, a lot of people have that. It's funny that the IRS kind of takes the position that, well, you can't deduct, those expenses related to your home office, if it's illegal. There's a basic tenet of tax law that says that any illegal activity is not deductible. You think, well, that's common sense, right? But it's not. So, for example, if I'm growing marijuana, that is federally, and selling marijuana, that's federally illegal. Okay, but if I'm in Oregon, it's perfectly legal. So what you have is, under state law, I can deduct those expenses. That's a legal activity under state law. So for my state tax return, I can take those deductions. But for my federal tax return, I can't. There's restrictions on it. And if I deal with a state bank, I might be able to make a deposit. If I'm dealing with a federal bank, probably not. And and state deposit. What about a state bank that has FDIC insurance? So there's all these kind of weird things, right? That have to do with illegal activities. So now all of a sudden, if certain activities are deemed to be illegal, you can't deduct. You can't deduct those expenses. So what they look at, the IRS will look at in a home office situation is, does your documents allow you to operate a business in your home? And if it doesn't, then you really can't, it's not allowed. So you can't claim it as a business if you're not allowed to really do it. You're breaking your association law, your association rules. So that's one of the things. And one of the things that the IRS generally says is, for you to have a home office, it has to be available to meet with customers, and you have to have signage, and you have to spend 51% of your time administratively and operationally in that house. And so, what had happened is a lot of people had the ability to deduct expenses outside, weren't deducting home office. If everything is home now, you've got limitations now on what you can deduct and what you can do. So there's all these kind of things that are just, if this thing continues and it doesn't come back to what we consider to be normal, or and instead goes to a new normal, I think associations are going to have to deal with some of these issues. I don't think you can tell somebody they can't work out of their house. In this pandemic, I don't think you can tell them that. So I think it's going to be really hard to stop somebody from working in their home. And if I'm a police officer, I'll bet I can bring my car home. And you probably can't do anything about it. Now the question is, if I'm
there's a new law anyway out that you can't
Right.
stop that anyway.
Right. But if I'm an EMT, can I bring that home? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things out there that's going to be, a teacher's an essential worker, so there's some things like that. So it's going to be interesting. Speaking of that, teachers as essential workers, one of the things that's become popular, or starting to become popular, is people hiring teachers individually. Okay. You get 20 people together, 15 people together, and they pay the teacher monthly, and the teacher provides the curriculum. And what some of these people are doing is they're actually buying RVs and modifying the RVs so that they can teach from the RVs and actually go to somebody's house if they need to, meet with the child in the in the RV, and then individually, and give them some individual one-on-one direction, and then head back. And it's kind of interesting. We're going to see some changes, I think, in terms of all of those types of things. I saw something the other day that people are looking at. I have a couple clients that are in the RV business, and their business has been really good because people are vacationing in RVs now. Some people are figuring, well, if I got to be home teaching my kid, I might as well travel around the country, because I can do it from anywhere. And so, it's an interesting situation. So if there's going to be more RVs out there, and what are the associations going to do? So you can't have an RV? Well, maybe that's it's my business. I have to have one. It was so I don't know. It's going to be, like I said, there could be a lot of those kind of things that just change as a result of this. We'll see what happens, but hopefully, the associations can stay on top of it. I know from going off the coronavirus situation and on to, it seems like we have been dealing now lately with some more, I guess, with some more what I call normal problems. I mean, things like budgets and things like that. People are starting to look at all of that, and costs and what's going on. We're looking at what kind of numbers. What are we going to do coming up? Delinquencies are starting to be looked at. I don't know if Peter, do you know right now, can associations, can they foreclose on a lien right now? Do you know I know that.
I believe the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
I don't think the associations are being, although some clerks of courts are not, but as far as I know, the associations can foreclose.
But the banks really can't right now, can they? That got extended, didn't it? I don't know.
Well, I know the foreclosures still, as far as I know, they're still occurring. So I thought there was a moratorium on that, but
I know it's I know maybe it's just primary residence or residential primary residence or something, but
I think we are going to see just a lot of foreclosures coming down the road.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I think that I think we're going to see a lot of associations having to change their documents again. All these things they did to keep people out of the community and keep renters out of the community and all that kind of stuff. They're going to need that now to pay bills because there's huge numbers of people that the one group of people in all of this that nobody gave any money to, and that they kind of actually was detrimental, are landlords, whether they're commercial landlords or residential landlords. They stopped the eviction process. So if you're a landlord that's got a residential unit, a lot of people just said, well, you can't evict me, so I'm not paying now. And I understand some of them weren't working. And so they would legitimately said, I'm not working, so I'm not paying. I can't pay you, but you can't kick me out. Well, the landlord still has to pay their assessments. They still have to pay their mortgage if they got a mortgage, all those kind of things. So now we got that group out there, and it's a huge number of people. And the landlords have to do something pretty quick because they're just going to walk away from their properties. They got somebody squatting on it that they can't get any rent out of, and then
it is a big problem.
Right. So that's a huge issue. And then and it's true on the commercial side too. You get a situation where a lot of commercial landlords tried to give their lessees a break, maybe cut their rent, especially restaurants and stuff that weren't open, say, well, okay, I'll cut your rent a little bit. I did that for parking rent. I said, well, you don't have any cars to park, so I'll just cancel your parking lease for now. But I still have, nobody canceled my mortgage payment. In fact, when I missed my mortgage payment, my interest rate went to 25%, so nobody was helping me pay my bill, at that point. And, and a lot of that's fallen on homeowners and lessors and all those kind of things. But at the same time, they're going to need to get people, paying. And a lot of these guys, whether they're, seasonal or whatever, one of the things I've noticed is it appears that more people are buying now. The real estate market, there's no product out there, at least in Martin County, there's no product. But, and so prices are still up because you can't buy anything. There's a lot of buyers now. But interestingly enough, many of them are moving more towards single family homes, I think, than or townhouses, more detached type stuff, where if they're going to be quarantined, they have more control over it. They and a lot of them are moving out of New York, and that were, some of them were seasonal residents and had a smaller unit here, and they say, well, we're going to spend all of our time down there. We'll just go up to New York and visit periodically when it's open. And so they're buying little bigger places down here. So I think there's going to be a shift. There's definitely going to be a shift, I think, in some of this, similar to what I think we had in 2008 and 2009. I think there's going to be some of that coming up. The PPP money and the EIDL money has already gone through the system. Some of the companies are even in their forgiveness application portion. It started about last week. So for some, and so, but when that money runs out, what are they going to do? I mean, I'm hearing big numbers in terms of businesses closing and bankruptcies, particularly restaurants. The restaurant numbers are horrendous. So we'll see what happens. But I think that it's going to affect. It is going to affect the way associations are going to have to loosen up on some things to keep paying their bills, because otherwise it's going to fall on just a handful of people that don't have a mortgage and that own their unit and have to pay special assessments, or their assessments. So we'll see. I just am not optimistic. You can't. fortunately for us, a lot of people are retired and they still are getting their Social Security or their retirement, their pension. But even that, you look at some of this stuff, and some of these big companies are declaring, bankruptcy, and that sometimes affects the pension plans that they have. So we'll see if something comes out of that. But anyway, so not looking good for what the associations may be facing here in the future. That's why I guess budget issues are going to be difficult going forward. You don't know what's going to happen, what the situation is. But the good thing is that if you do have to foreclose on somebody and you're able to foreclose on them, most likely you're going to get paid because, the units have got some equity in them. Even if they bought them, within the last 6 months, they still got enough equity to pay their assessments. You get your assessments paid and your legal fees, So anyway, so that's kind of one of the things I've been looking at right now, just from the industry standpoint, is what's happening. It affects the accounting too, and that's why I've been looking at that. But that's the whole different story. Any other things, Peter, that you've been looking at? I mean, things that are starting to come up.
Well, I know that several of my associations are entering into loans because they're doing, some fairly big projects.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still going on. Where the banks are still willing to loan to associations. So that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah,
that hasn't stopped yet.
We have seen some up here. We've seen some consolidation again, and each time we see some consolidation, there were banks that used to be very active in the HOA and condo world and are becoming less active. So hopefully we won't see that. We just had a little merger up here with Center States and South, and Center States through Gulfstream used to always be a pretty good active lender, but we're running out of time. We'll be thanks, Dave, for the call. We'll be here next Monday from 9 to 10 o'clock on WSTU. So write the number down, 220-9788, 220-WSTU, and join us next Monday, 9 to 10 o'clock, right here on WSTU Digital 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.